Hello there and welcome. Today we are taking a full look at the Adventure Force Spin Shot. Now this blaster is made by BuzzBee, is claiming ranges of up to 135 feet and fires these vertical rings. Let's get right into it. Included in the box is of course the Spin Shot itself and then 8 vertical rings. Now that we have the BuzzBee Spin Shot out of the box, let's go over the blaster. First off, the grips on this blaster are actually surprisingly good for BuzzBee. Through the years, BuzzBee has been notorious for very small and uncomfortable grips, but I am happy to report that this blaster has very comfortable ergonomics. The blaster is styled pretty much exactly the same on both sides, which is something I really like seeing. Loading the vertical rings is pretty simple. Make sure the grooved side is facing out the barrel, and then you line up these 2 prongs inside. You might need to twist it slightly. It gets past the first lock, and then you have to continue pushing until you get past the second lock. This blaster has a capacity of 8, so we can load all the included rings. Now obviously the Spin Shot does not have a trigger, so to fire, we're going to pull the pump grip all the way back. The performance you get will depend on how hard you pull this pump grip. Firing this thing is a really interesting experience. Because these rings are traveling so slow and I don't really have anything to compare it to, we're not going to do chronograph testing, but we will go outside and do some range testing. Here we are outside. I have 135 feet marked. Wow. Oh geez. Wow. And we're out. Here's our first 2, sitting at right about 92 feet. So that's not quite 135, but let's keep going. Here's another 2, sitting at about 104 feet. Here's 1 and 2, right at about 114. And then finally, here we have the last one, which got to about 120 feet. So the Spin Shot was about 15 feet shy of 135 feet. But this blaster is dependent on the user, and I was not pulling it as hard as I possibly could. If someone were to slam the priming handle back harder than I did, I am pretty certain this blaster would achieve the 135-foot ranges. So what are my final thoughts on the Adventure Force Spin Shot? Overall, this blaster is a ton of fun to use and completely different from most of what we're used to. Firing these vertical rings is definitely very reminiscent of the old Koosh Vortex blasters, but this thing is actually capable of firing further than those old blasters because the rings have a propeller design. Now I have not seen refill packs for these rings, but hopefully BuzzBee releases them in the coming weeks. The ergonomics are surprisingly good for BuzzBee. The plastic quality is definitely better than the old BuzzBee that I'm used to. It's pretty nice, maybe not to the level of Nerf or Dart Zone, but it's very acceptable. And the blaster works fine. It functions very smoothly. So yeah, for $20, I think this thing is extremely fun and very solid. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Adventure Force Spin Shot, and happy nerfing.